So, having read a lot of different recipes about how to make pavlova, there are two things that I want to incorporate. I've added about a pound of whipped cream, a whole bunch of apple butter, a lot of ginger snap cookies, and a fall spiced pavlova. It's like marshmallow on the inside. The outside, crispy. That's the best thing I've made in a while. These flavors, wow. Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. Thank you for spending your time with me. I am in the middle of a hot streak. Well, I don't think you can count 2 out of 2 wins as a streak, and the recipe that I cooked just previous was a complete failure. So I'm probably doing perfectly average. This fall, I'm cooking through recipes that scare me, and a lot of those recipes are meringue based, which is basically just egg whites and sugar. I realized that anything that feels too scientific for me in the kitchen or that's too fiddly, I just tend to kind of avoid. Today I'm making a pavlova, which is one of the easiest of the dishes that I've made, and I have made a pavlova in the past, but only one time. I remember it cracking and being generally frustrating and not worth the time it took in the oven. I don't know why that is though, because a pavlova is pretty darn simple. It's made almost entirely of egg whites, usually topped with cream and some sort of fruit. I think of it as more of a summer dessert, though today we're gonna make it into a fall dessert. And the texture of it is what is its signature. The outside is crunchy and the inside is kind of marshmallowy if it's done correctly. The fiddly parts of this recipe are ensuring that the egg whites are beaten appropriately and that they maintain their lift in the oven, and then baking it in the oven really low, 200 degrees for an hour, and then leaving it in the oven for an hour to longer. I've been doing a lot of studying this week for this recipe, and there's a whole bunch of different ways to do it, but I've picked probably one of the most simple, and I'll have the recipe linked in the description box below. I'm gonna bump it up with some fall flavors, and I kind of feel like a broken record on these. Right now, I wanna cook with everything warm spices, so I'm gonna use a little bit of pumpkin spice in the pavlova itself, and then I'm gonna take some help from the store and top it with some store-bought apple butter, a little bit of whipped cream that's chilling in my fridge, and crumbled ginger snaps. So while the bake time on this recipe means it's not really a last-minute dish, it'll have you in and out of the kitchen pretty quickly, so the work time is actually pretty low, especially if you take some help from the store. So I'm gonna walk you through a pavlova today, and hopefully by the end of today, we will have 3 successful dishes checked off my list and added to my arsenal. Let's get going. So the first step is giving yourself some sort of a template on which to place your egg whites. Pavlovas can come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. I'm gonna make a pretty traditional one, which is about a 9-inch circle. So the pavlova itself will come out as a disc. All I'm doing is taking a piece of parchment paper and a 9-inch template and scribing a circle, trace the circle, and then flip the paper over onto my cookie sheet. So I have a guide to spread the egg whites out onto. The only other thing that we're gonna do is preheat our oven to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, which is pretty low. It's almost like the meringue is drying out versus baking. The low temperature is what leads to that really interesting kind of crackly crust with the marshmallowy center. The method is simple. We're basically just making a meringue, which is whipping up egg whites with some sugar, and then the toppings you put on this are infinite. This one is actually slightly healthier dessert as well, so if you're looking for something that's a little bit lighter, this might be a good one to bring to some of your fall festivities. One of the fiddly parts about making a meringue is that your egg whites will not whip up if there is any fat involved. So you need to be really careful when you're separating your eggs not to get any yolk into the white. You also need to make sure that your tools that will touch the egg whites need to be completely free from any sort of grease. Using a cut lemon will degrease any of the tools that you're using, but it also will make your egg whites whip up a little bit easier. So I'm gonna use this lemon and just run it along my whisk and also run it along the inside of my bowl to ensure, particularly for a beginner, that we have success in making meringue. So the only ingredients in the pavlova that I'm making are egg whites, cream of tartar, a little bit of cornstarch, a little bit of salt, and sugar. So a pretty basic meringue. I'm gonna add some pumpkin pie spice. So that will likely change the color, but hopefully it doesn't change the texture too much. Start your egg whites, get them to about soft peaks, and then gradually stream in the sugar. That's a really basic meringue. So we're gonna do just that. Test for soft peakness. we're there. So you saw me just put some sugar and spices in this tiny little strainer. I'm gonna strain in the sugar and the spices tiny little bit by tiny little bit. What we are ending up with here is stiff peaks and a really glossy meringue. But those spices, I was a little concerned that they would clump up in these soft peaks. So I'm gonna use the strainer. I think we're there. We're definitely there. That is tasty. Okay, so now it's a simple process of spreading our meringue gently over our template. So having read a lot of different recipes about how to make pavlova, I think there are two things that I want to incorporate. I want to have the sides be a little bit taller than the center so that it creates kind of a bowl for our whipped cream, apple butter, ginger snap topping. And then I'm gonna do some little peaks and valleys because I like the little crunchy bits that come and the different textures that come from something that's not perfectly flat. I'm just going to dollop our meringue mixture, gently spread it out. It doesn't matter if it's not perfectly round. It can be as free form as you like. You can make a square one if you want. You can make lots of tiny little ones. The bake times will likely differ depending on the size. This is one of those projects that I feel like I could keep going on forever. But we gotta stop at some point. I really like the look of that pumpkin spice and honestly the taste. Very good. Okay, this is so exciting. It's been like, what, 15 minutes and we're already ready for the oven. So this is gonna go in a 200-degree oven for an hour. I'm gonna turn the oven off and let it sit for another hour. I'll come back to you in a couple hours and we will judge my effort, we'll top it and we'll give it a taste. We made a pavlova. Cooked for an hour, then I shut the oven off and left it inside for another hour. I knew that it was time to turn the oven off and let it sit for the next half an hour because it released, oh no, because it released super easily from the parchment paper. It is very delicate. I've just carved a little piece off, unfortunately. Cake mover coming in clutch. All right, it's not perfect. I broke it a little bit. I was too busy gabbing to you and chatting. Whipped cream that I whipped and stored in the fridge. I'm gonna add a little bit of vanilla. I meant to do that when I was whipping it, but I forgot. Okay, that's ready to go on top. And then I think for the color contrast, I'm gonna start with the apple butter. So I'm gonna put a nice layer of apple butter on top, try to camouflage a little bit of my mistakes here. And then add some whipped cream and top with some ginger snap crumbles. So once you put your toppings on a pavlova, you kind of want to eat it within a short amount of time. So sad for me. We're going to have to eat this one tonight. Now we cut in. I'm not exactly sure how to approach this bad boy, but I guess we just go in. Pizza style. Oh, the texture is really interesting. Not bad. Okay, I want to show you something. Can you kind of see that texture? It's like marshmallow on the inside. This is about 1,000 times better than the last pavlova that I made. It's like marshmallow on the inside. The outside, crispy. Okay, here we go. Piled high with vanilla whipped cream, apple butter, ginger snap crumbles, and a fall spiced pavlova. That's the best thing I've made in a while. These flavors, wow. I did not expect a pavlova to be able to go from summer to fall so easily, but why wouldn't it? Oh, it's so good. I think if you can master meringue, you can easily master any of the desserts that I've created this week. That really surprises me. I've been so afraid to dive deeper into eggs because it felt like a whole bunch of science that I just wasn't interested in, but I've really been missing out. This is actually quite a light dessert depending on what you put on top of it. So if you were to add some fruit or something else a little bit lighter to the top, it could be a really nice addition that is lighter, but still fall flavored to any of your fall festivities. I'm really pleased with this one. I would highly recommend it. And it really doesn't require any skill other than just the ability to mix up some egg whites. The more you practice that, the better you will be. I'm feeling a lot better about cooking dishes that scare me. There are some fails coming up though, so brace yourself. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you liked this video, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more from me, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers.